Today we're going to do Chapter 1, Lesson 3, Subtracting Integers. Our essential question for today: how are adding integers and subtracting integers related? Well, in order to see the relationship between them, let's look at the key idea for subtracting integers. When we subtract integers, the rule is to add its opposite, which means we're going to change a subtraction problem to an addition problem by keep, change, opposite. They're the three words that you're going to always say to yourself when you see subtraction of integers. Keep, change, opposite. So that's the rule we're going to follow for subtraction. All right, after we do keep, change, opposite, it's going to be an addition problem. So we're simply going to then follow our addition rules. So let's be reminded of what the addition rules are for integers. So when we're adding and the signs are the same, we add them and keep the sign. If we're adding and the signs are different, we really subtract the two numbers and take the sign of the one with the higher absolute value. So for example, we're going to start with A here, 3 minus 12, and we're going to rewrite it as keep, change, opposite. So we're going to keep the 3 a 3. We're going to change from subtraction to addition. And we're going to think about what the opposite of 12 is, which would be negative 12. So now I have an addition problem, and I can see that I have a positive and a negative. So my signs are different. When my signs are different, I subtract or find the difference. 12 minus 3 is 9. And then I take the one with the higher absolute value. So I go back and think the absolute value of 3 is 3. It's 3 units away from 0. The absolute value of negative 12 is 12. It's 12 units away from 0. Since 12 is bigger than 3, I'm going to take the sign of the 12, which is a negative. So my answer would be negative 9. So we're doing keep, change, opposite, and then we are following the addition rules. Are my signs the same? Add them and keep the sign, or are my signs different? Find the difference and take the sign with the higher absolute value. In part B, again, I'm going to do keep, change, opposite. Negative 8, I'm keeping. I'm going to change from subtraction to addition. And then I'm going to think about the opposite of negative 13, which would be a positive 13. Now that I have an addition problem, my signs are different. I have a negative and a positive. Therefore, I'm going to find the difference, which means I'm going to subtract. 13 minus 8 is 5. Now I can think about my absolute value. The absolute value of negative 8 is 8. The absolute value of 13 is 13. Since 13 is greater than 8, I would take the sign of the 13, which is positive, making that a positive 5, which means I do not have to write a sign. When there's no sign in front of the number, we know that it is positive. In part C, again, keep, change, opposite. So 5 stays as a 5. Subtraction becomes addition. The opposite of negative 4 would be a positive 4. I'm looking at addition of two positive numbers. My signs are the same. Therefore, I add them and keep that positive sign. My answer would be positive 9. So I'm going to ask that you do that for the on your own problems. Pause the video and then come back and check. Remember, you're doing keep, change, opposite. Rewrite each problem and then follow your addition rules. Same sign, keep the sign. Add them and keep the sign. Different signs, find the difference and take the sign of the higher absolute value. See if you can do those 6 problems and then come back and check. So for number 1, I'm going to rewrite it down below. 8 minus 3, keep, change, opposite would be 8 plus negative 3. My signs are different, therefore I would find the difference. 8 minus 3 is 5. Check my absolute values. The absolute value of 8 is 8. The absolute value of negative 3 is 3. Since 8 is greater than 3, I'm going to take the sign of the 8, which is a positive, making that a positive 5. In number 2, keep, change, opposite. 9 stays as my keep. Change from subtraction to addition. The opposite of 17 would be a negative 17, and I'm putting it in parentheses so that my addition sign and my negative sign are not right next to each other. I now see that I'm adding different signs, so again I'm finding the difference. I'm going to subtract my numbers. 17 minus 9 is 8. Check my absolute values. The absolute value of 9 is 9. The absolute value of negative 17 is positive 17. Since 17 is greater than 9, I'm going to take the sign of that 17, which was a negative. So your answer should be negative 8. In number 3, keep, change, opposite. Negative 3 is my keep. I change from subtraction to addition. The opposite of 3 is negative 3. I'm adding and my signs are the same. I have two negatives. Negative plus a negative. I'm going to add them together and keep that negative sign. So my answer is negative 6. And again, you could put parentheses around this so that your negative sign and your addition sign are not right next to each other. Let's switch colors so we don't get them all mixed up. Number 4, keep, change, opposite. Negative 14 is my keep. From subtraction to addition, the opposite of 9 is negative 9. Following my rules of addition, my signs are the same. I'm going to add those numbers and keep the sign. That would give me a negative 23. In number 5, keep, change, opposite. 9 stays 9. Subtraction to addition. The opposite of negative 8 is positive 8. I add them together. The signs are the same. Add and keep the sign for positive 17. And in number 6, keep, change, opposite. Negative 12 stays as my keep. Change from subtraction to addition. The opposite of negative 12 would be positive 12. I immediately notice that I have a positive and a negative. I have opposites, and when I add those opposites, they always get 0. Moving on to example 2. Now we're subtracting more than 2 integers. We now have 3 integers that we're going to subtract. So we could break it up and just start with the negative 7 minus negative 12. Using keep, change, opposite, I've got negative 7 plus the opposite of negative 12 would be positive 12. My signs are different, therefore I'm going to find the difference. So 12 minus 7 is 5. I then have to check for my absolute value. The absolute value of negative 7 is 7. The absolute value of 12 is 12. Since 12 is greater than 7, we're going to take the sign of the 12, which was a positive, so we've got positive 5. Continuing with the problem, we now have 5 minus 14. And I'm going to do, again, keep, change, opposite. So I've got 5 plus the opposite of 14 would be negative 14. 5 plus negative 14, my signs are different. I'm going to find the difference, so I'm really subtracting them. That gives me 9. Check for my absolute values since my signs were different. The absolute value of 5 is 5. The absolute value of negative 14 is 14. Since 14 is greater than 5, I'm going to take that negative sign, so my answer is negative 9. Moving on to the on your own problems. See if you can do those on your own. You can break them up into 2. Come back and check your work when you're done. Number 7. Keep, change, opposite would give me negative 9 plus negative 16. My signs are the same. I'm going to add them to get negative 25. I then have negative 25 minus 8. I'm going to switch colors to show keep, change, opposite. These are my keep, change, and the opposite of 8 would be a negative 8, which you could put in parentheses if you need to. So you now have negative 25 plus negative 8. Your signs are the same. You're going to add them and keep those signs, which would give you negative 33. Number 8. Negative 4 minus 20. Keep, change, opposite. Negative 4 plus negative 20 gives me same signs. I'm going to add them and keep that sign, negative 24. Continuing with the problem, I've got negative 24 minus 9. I'm going to do keep change opposite. I keep it as negative 24. Change to addition. The opposite of 9 is negative 9. I now have negative 24 plus negative 9. My signs are the same. I'm going to add them and keep the sign, which would give me a negative 33. Just so happens the same answer as number 7. Number 9. Keep change opposite. 0 minus 9 becomes 0 plus negative 9. My signs are different. I'm going to find the difference, which would be 9. 9 minus 0 is 9. I'm going to check those absolute values. The absolute value of 0 is 0. It's not any distance away from 0. The absolute value of 9 is 9. Comparing those two, 9 is greater than 0. Therefore, I take the sign of the 9, which makes it a negative 9. Continuing with the problem, negative 9 minus negative 5. I'm going to do my keep change opposite. Keep change. The opposite of negative 5 is positive 5. My signs are now different. I have a negative and a positive. Therefore, I'm going to find the difference of those numbers. I'm going to subtract them. 9 minus 5 gives me 4. Check for my absolute values. The absolute value of negative 9 is 9. The absolute value of 5 is 5. Since 9 is greater than 5, I'm going to take the sign of the 9, making my 4 a negative 4. In number 10, I'm going to start writing it with keep change opposite. Negative 8 minus negative 6 becomes negative 8 plus positive 6. My signs are different, therefore I find the difference between the two numbers. 8 minus 6 is 2. Go back and check your absolute value. The absolute value of negative 8 is 8. The absolute value of 6 is 6. 8 is greater than 6, therefore I take the sign of the 8, which is a negative. I then continue with the problem. Negative 2 minus 0. Keep change opposite would be negative 2. Plus 0 doesn't have an opposite, so we can just say 0. And anything that you add 0 to remains the same. So negative 2 plus 0 is really just negative 2. Number 11. Keep change opposite. 15 minus negative 20 would become 15 plus the opposite of negative 20 is 20. My signs are the same. They're both positives. That gives me a positive 35. Continuing with the problem, I've got 35 minus 20. I'm going to rewrite it using keep change opposite. Keep 35, change from subtraction to addition, and the opposite of 20 would be negative 20. My signs are different, therefore I find the difference. I subtract the numbers. 35 minus 20 would be 15. Now I'm going to check for my absolute value. The absolute value of 35 is 35. The absolute value of negative 20 is 20. Since 35 is greater than 20, I'm going to take the sign of the 35, which is positive, therefore making it positive 15. And in number 12, keep change opposite. Negative 14 minus 9 would become negative 14 plus negative 9. My signs are the same, therefore I get to add those numbers and keep the sign. That gives me a negative 23. Continuing with the problem, negative 23 minus 36, keep change opposite, becomes negative 23 plus negative 36. Again, my signs are the same, therefore I add them and keep that sign. That would give me a negative 59. All right, constantly thinking to ourselves, keep, change, opposite. And then you're following those addition rules. Are your signs the same? Add them and keep the signs. Or are your signs different? Find the difference and take the sign of the higher absolute value. Moving on to example 3. Here's your real-life application problem. Which continent has the greatest range of elevations? To be able to answer that, we need to remember what the range is. To find the range of a set of data, you find the difference, meaning you subtract the highest number minus the lowest. right? That's what range is, the difference between the highest data item and the lowest data item. So we are subtracting those data items. So if I'm looking at North America versus Africa, the highest elevation in North America is 6,198 meters, and the lowest elevation is negative 86 meters. So we're going to find the range of these two numbers, therefore we are subtracting them. And we're going to compare it to the range of Africa, whose highest elevation is 5,895 meters, and lowest is negative 155. So again, we're going to subtract those, and we're going to see which one has the greater range, which range is highest. So we'll start over here with North America. North America, we're going to do 6,198 minus, because we're finding the range, negative 86. So since I am subtracting integers, I'm going to think to myself, keep change opposite. So 6,198 is my keep. I'm going to change from subtraction to addition. And the opposite of negative 86 becomes positive 86. Since my signs are the same, I can now add those two integers together and keep that positive sign, giving me positive 6,284 meters for my range. Now let's take a look at Africa. For Africa, we're going to find the difference between 5,895 and negative 155. Again, range is subtraction of highest and lowest. We're going to think to ourselves, subtraction of integers gives me keep change opposite, so 5,895 is my keep. I change from subtraction to addition. The opposite of negative 155 is positive 155. I'm now looking at addition of the same sign, therefore I get to add those numbers and keep that positive sign, and when I add those two together, it gives me 6,050 meters. And I'm now going to compare these two numbers, 6,284 to 6,050. I'm looking for the one with the greater range, and since 6,284 is greater than 6,050, I underlined where they changed so that I can compare them. This one would be greater. Therefore, my answer, which continent has the greater range, I would say North America. On your own problem, you're going to use the same information. Oh no, I'm sorry, you're going to use Mexico's information. So the highest elevation in Mexico, you've got 5,700, and the lowest is negative 10. Find the range of the elevations in Mexico. Please pause the video, see if you can set up that range problem. So you should be doing subtraction of those numbers, following your integer rules, and then come back and check. So when you go to check it, you should have set up 5,700 minus negative 10. We're finding the difference of those two numbers. You're going to do keep change opposite because it's subtraction of integers. So 5,700 is my keep. I change from subtraction to addition, and the opposite of negative 10 would be positive 10. My signs are now the same, so I'm going to add those two numbers and keep that positive sign for 5,710 meters as the range in the elevations in Mexico.